My name is Avonte Jackson, and this is my story. I was born and raised in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I lived there until I graduated from high school. It was a great childhood, really. My mom and dad took us on long car rides. I remember lots of long car rides, and those were some of the strongest memories I have of family time. That time in the car, all the jokes that we would tell. And my dad had this, back when vans were full size, he had this van with a picture window. And it had a refrigerator, and it had a bed in the back, and you could convert it to a table. My sister and I played Uno in the back while we were driving to all these various places: Delaware, Mississippi, Virginia, St. Louis, Missouri. We were all over the place. And so those are some of my strongest memories. I was also involved in gymnastics when I was a kid. That was my sport of choice, and I loved it. I learned a lot from gymnastics. When I was in gymnastics, I was often the only Black child in the gym. There weren't a whole lot of Black gymnasts. Now, when you look at the U.S. Olympic team, it's full of diversity. When I was in gymnastics, it was me and lots of other young white girls. And they were my teammates and they were my friends, and it wasn't a problem at all. But I can remember things like once my mom was sitting in the stands at a meet, and she could hear my teammate's mother saying, "Don't let the Black girl beat you today." So she could hear them saying things like that. And because my hair is different, I remember times where, we have to put hair grease in our hair. And my hair grease was left on a mat. And they were like, "Ew, what's that? What's that gross stuff on the mat?" I'm like, "It's hair grease," but they didn't know, because if you don't have to use it, how would you know what it is? So things like that would happen all the time. I usually did pretty well. I was state champion when I retired on floor exercise. I achieved quite a bit in gymnastics, and so that just overwhelms and overcomes all of the challenges, because there was success that went along with it, and accomplishments that came with it. And accomplishments and growth don't come without challenge and hardship. When I was applying to colleges, I thought I was going to study journalism because I was going to be like Oprah. That didn't happen because as I was preparing to go to University of Michigan, where I had been accepted, I received an invitation from Florida A&M University in Tallahassee, Florida. It's a historically Black college in Tallahassee, and they were inviting me to apply to their business program. And so once I heard Florida, I kind of thought, hey, Michigan, snow, Florida, no snow. And I ended up in Florida. And I started off as a business major, and then I switched to accounting. And so my undergraduate degree is in accounting, and then I stayed for my master's as well. When I graduated from Florida A&M, I took a job with Hewlett-Packard, and so I moved from Florida to California. And my mom says all the time, she didn't realize when I graduated high school that I was not coming home. And I didn't. When I graduated from high school, and because of the internships that I didn't spend more than a few weeks at home at a time since I was 18. And it happened again. I moved to California. And that was the beginning of me moving a lot. I was in California for a year. And one of the interesting stories from there, it's actually probably a failure, but it turned into a good thing. So when I worked at HP that first year, I worked for a man who was interesting to work for. Not bad, but just interesting. And I often felt like I would do my project and turn it into him, and then by the time I turned it into him, he had already decided to move on in a different direction. So I always felt like my work was wasted a little bit. And so that was hard. But another interesting thing about that time is when I started working there was another young lady who started working at the same time. I had gone to a historically Black college, as I mentioned, and that's where my master's is from as well. Now, this other young lady had gone to a more well-known school. And so she had gotten a degree from I don't remember where, but it was something that was much more prestigious than my school. And I remember him saying to me after a while, he was like, "Hey, you're every bit as good as can't remember her name, let's say Mary. You're every bit as good as Mary. And I remember thinking then that clearly there was a lesser expectation of me at that time because of the school I went to, maybe because I'm a Black woman as well. But either way, it didn't matter, because when you are good at what you do, it comes out. People recognize that talent. If you are confident and you know what you're doing and you just do your job and do it well. And my parents taught me to work hard, and so you do those things. And so he recognized it, and it didn't matter what school I went to. At that point, it just was, you are good at what you do. I left HP when my daughter was born because I made the decision that I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. So I went from working in the corporate world and all that traveling and everything to being what I call a stay-in-the-car mom. And so my daughter and I, she was my running buddy, and we would go out and do all kinds of things together. And that's really where I learned to serve. That's where my volunteering and working for nonprofits started. I started off by working with our church. And our church had a really vibrant children's program. Shortly after that, though, I was offered a position at the church. And I was offered the job of director of children's ministry. And so I took over the children's programs at our church when my daughter was 1 year old. My service is really fueled by my faith. And so that's where it was such a great fit to start working in the church, because it really feels like almost an obligation. Because I know all those experiences I had working with HP, all the training and all the travel, all the things that happened were just giving me the skills I needed for this next season of my life. And that season is working for nonprofits and working with groups that their goal is not to make money. That's the goal of a for-profit corporation. HP is selling printers and all those things because they want to make money. Well, nonprofit groups also have to be wise with how we spend money, but the goal is to make someone's life better. There's someone who has a need and I can help fill it. And so at that point, I realized that my purpose in life is to use the gifts and talents I have to make life better for other people. I kind of knew a transition was probably coming, but I didn't know what. I received a call from a friend of mine who happened to be involved with Grace Clinic. And he called me and he said, "Hey, let's go have coffee." And so we went and had coffee. And while we were having coffee, he mentioned that there was this clinic director role open at Grace Clinic. And so Mark offered me that position. And here I am 7 years later. Grace Clinic is the only free clinic in the Tri-Cities. And we provide free healthcare, medical, dental, and mental health counseling services for people who don't have insurance. So we provide free healthcare for people who wouldn't have access otherwise. And it's been wonderful, wonderful experience. I think it's great that we're able to do this work, and the community supports us so much in the work that we do. When I started doing nonprofit work, I had complete faith that whatever I did or had to give up in order to do this work, that I'd still be taken care of. You know, that's where having that faith foundation is so important for me, because I believe firmly that if I do what I'm supposed to do, fulfill my purpose, live out my calling, that all of the physical needs will be met, that we'll have a roof over our heads, we'll have food on our table. It may not be as much, but at the same time, we've always had everything that we needed. And I can remember having conversations with people and just telling them, you know, income and money is not everything. That's not my motivator. My motivator is that my life has meaning and purpose, and the things that I do have impact, positive impact on other people. That my husband and my kids and my family members and community members, that their lives have been made better by the things that I did that day. That's what motivates me. Don't make money your motivator. Because if your goal is always to have more money, then how do you know when you have enough? So you want to have satisfaction in life. And it's hard to satisfy more because there's always more. So you can't really meet that need. But when your satisfaction comes from and your contentment comes from serving, then you can look at someone will say, "Thank you for helping me today." And you can say, "Check. Okay, mission accomplished. Someone was helped today." And that is a different kind of motivation. And I would encourage people to explore serving as a way of adding that element of contentment to your life. Uh, Include other people as part of your motivation, not to please them necessarily, but to serve them, because greatness comes from serving.